In the entire long history of English kings and queens, only one, just one, has ever been called the Great. And his name was Alfred. But here's the thing, he was never supposed to be king. He inherited a kingdom that was literally about to be wiped off the map and ended up a fugitive in his own land. So the big question is, how on earth did this guy, this total underdog, not only save his kingdom, but also earn that incredible title? Well, let's get into it. All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with how he became this unlikely king. Then we'll dive into the Viking onslaught that almost ended everything. Next up, his amazing comeback story from the marshes. After that, how he forged a whole new kind of kingdom. And finally, we'll tackle the big one, what really earned him the legacy of the Great.
Okay, first things first. We really have to get this. Alfred was never, ever supposed to be king. He wasn't groomed for it, he wasn't trained for it. He was basically born at the very back of the line, right in the middle of total chaos.
I mean, think about it. He was the youngest of 5 sons. His future was probably going to be in the church, not on the throne. With 3 older brothers ahead of him in line to rule, the odds of him ever wearing the crown were, well, they were pretty much 0.
But fate and the really brutal realities of the 9th century, they had very different plans. Just look at how fast this all happened. One brother becomes king. He's dead in 2 years. The next one lasts 5. His last older brother, Ethelred, gets the throne in 865, right as this massive storm is about to hit England. And when Ethelred dies in battle just 6 years later, a 22-year-old Alfred is suddenly the last man standing.
And that storm I mentioned, it had a name. The Vikings. And look, this wasn't just another raid on the coast for some quick loot. No. This was a full-blown invasion, on a scale the Anglo-Saxons had never, ever seen before. This was the Great Heathen Army, as the Anglo-Saxons called them, and they weren't just here to smash and grab. They came to conquer, to settle down, and to literally wipe the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms off the map. And for years, they were just terrifyingly good at it. They picked off the other kingdoms, Northumbria, East Anglia, Mercia, boom, 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 one by one, until only Alfred's kingdom, Wessex, was left.
So, the year Alfred becomes king, 871, it was an absolute train wreck, a total catastrophe. He's fighting right beside his brother, King Ethelred, and they just get hammered. Defeat at Reading, defeat at Basing, defeat at Merton. And then right in the middle of all this chaos, Ethelred dies. And just like that, the crown passes to Alfred. Smack in the middle of a war they are definitely losing. So what's Alfred's first big move as king? A heroic, glorious victory? Nope, not even close. After another defeat at a place called Wilton, he's forced to do something pretty unthinkable. He makes a deal. We don't have the exact details, but it's almost certain he paid the Vikings a massive amount of cash, basically a bribe, just to get them to go away for a little while. It had to be humiliating, but it was the only move he had to buy himself some time.
Well, that peace he bought, it didn't last. A few years later, the Vikings came back, and this time, this was when Alfred would face his absolute darkest hour.
Picture this. It's the dead of winter, January 878. The Viking leader, a guy named Guthrum, launches this insane surprise attack right on Alfred's royal court at Chippenham. Alfred's army just scatters. The whole kingdom, it basically collapses overnight. And Alfred, the king of Wessex, has to run for his life with just a handful of followers, disappearing into the swamps of Somerset. He was a king with no kingdom. It was over.
There's this famous story from this period. It's probably just a legend, but it captures the mood so perfectly. The story goes that Alfred's hiding out in a peasant woman's hut, and he's so completely lost in thought, so worried about his kingdom, that he doesn't notice he's burning the cakes she asked him to watch. So she comes back and gives the king of all of Wessex a furious lecture for being so useless. It just paints this picture of a man at rock bottom, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he can't even watch some cakes.
But here's the twist. Down in those marshes, Alfred wasn't just hiding and feeling sorry for himself. He was planning. From a secret fort at a place called Athelney, he starts fighting back, guerrilla style. Then he sends out these secret messengers calling on all the loyal local armies, they were called fyrds, to meet him. And in May of that same year, this brand new army he's pulled together meets Guthrum's Vikings. And at the Battle of Edington, Alfred gets his revenge. A total, crushing, game-changing victory.
I mean, the turnaround was just staggering. Think about it. In a matter of months, Alfred went from being a fugitive with no land, hiding in a swamp, to being the victorious hero who saved the very last independent Anglo-Saxon kingdom. He was staring total annihilation in the face, and he came out the other side as the most powerful leader in England. It's an incredible comeback story.
Okay, so winning the war was huge, but Alfred knew that was just step one. The real question was, how do you make sure this never ever happens again? He had to build a kingdom that could actually survive the next attack, and the one after that. He was absolutely determined not to get caught with his guard down again. And his solution was a total game changer. It was a brand new way of thinking about national defense, and it was called the Burgle system. Basically, Alfred ordered a network of 33 fortified towns, they called them burhs, to be built all across his kingdom. And these weren't just military forts. They were defended towns where people lived, designed to create this incredible security network for everyone. And the placement of these burhs was absolutely genius. Each one was built about 30 kilometers apart. That's roughly 20 miles.
So what does that mean? It meant that no matter where a Viking raiding party landed, a fortress with an army ready to fight was always within a single day's march. That's the genius of it. It completely flipped the script, making those quick hit-and-run raids the Vikings loved so much way, way harder to pull off. But Alfred was thinking bigger than just walls and soldiers. That was only one piece of the puzzle. His vision for a strong kingdom really stood on three main pillars. First, the military, a standing army, that network of burhs, and even a brand new navy. Second, law and order. He created a new, single law code for everyone, called the Dombook. And third, and this is so important, he kicked off this huge project to bring back learning and culture, which the wars had almost totally destroyed.
And this, right here, brings us to the final, biggest question. Look, saving your kingdom from being destroyed is amazing, no doubt. But it's these other things, these other reforms, that really elevate Alfred from just being a successful king to being the Great.
And we know Alfred was worried about this because he wrote about it himself. He basically said that learning had gotten so bad in England that there were hardly any men left who could even translate a letter from Latin into English. Decades of war had wrecked the monasteries, which were the libraries and universities of their day. England was on the verge of losing its entire cultural memory.
So what was his solution? It was totally radical for the time. He said, okay, if my people can't read Latin, then I'll bring the books to the people. He started this massive project, and even helped himself, to translate the most important books, history, philosophy, you name it, from Latin into Old English, the language everyone actually spoke. And he went even further. He proposed that all free-born men should learn to read. I mean, that's basically a blueprint for public education, 1,000 years before it was a thing.
So let's put it all together. Why the Great? Because he saved the last Anglo-Saxon kingdom from disappearing forever. Because he created a revolutionary defense system. Because he gave his people a single, just law code. And maybe most importantly, because he championed education and fought for literacy in English. He wasn't just ruling a kingdom, he was building a culture. He fought not just for territory, but for an idea of who his people were. He didn't just save England, you could argue he's the one who really started to create it. So it leaves you with a really interesting thought, right? Any victory can make you a king. But what does it take to be called great? Alfred's story seems to tell us that it's not just about the battles you win. It's about what you build for the people who come after you, long after the fighting is over.